All right, guys, welcome back to Calling Them Out. I'm your host, Nefreteri, and today's lie is a very pervasive lie in society. It is all about external validation. We are condemning external validation, but crazy enough, everything that society pushes out, our magazines, what you see on TV, what you see on social media, is all pretty much promoting external validation, but yet in the self-help movement we'll say, oh, external validation, you need some, but we really should be focusing on internal validation. So in every lie, there is usually some semblance of truth. That is what gives a lie so much strength. It sounds good, and you're like, yeah, external validation hasn't really been working for me, so maybe that's what I'm missing. I should be internally validating. Yeah, but I still kind of crave it. And so then you get online and you look up like, what's the balance? How much external validation do I really need? Or what is too much? I am here today to correct all of this. Okay, when I say all, as much as I can. So when I decided to do this episode, I did a lot of research. So I do it so you don't have to, or I can get you to stop. And while I was doing all this research, I was getting very, very bogged down. I actually felt like I wasted a solid day reading about this topic because there's just too much conflicting information out there, and too many things have way too many steps. And they'll be like, oh yes, you should externally validate. You need to be self-validating, and then there's some people who they believe that it's none of that works. And so we go into like the spirituality realm and things like shadow work and stuff. So there was just so much information that I actually felt more confused at the end. And so I'm not going to cover everything, but as much as I possibly can. And I'm going to give you a promise. I am going to promise at the end of all of this, I will give you some semblance of hope. And I say that because I don't want anybody to listen to all of this and feel really despondent about all of the lies that I'm going to refute. And so when I give you what I believe is to be hope, you can either accept or reject it, because that's the power. You have the power to choose. And but I'm just going to share a lot of the research that I have done with you now. So to start the topic, we need to know what we're talking about. What are the terms that are being thrown around, and we need to define them. And so we have external validation and internal validation. Okay, so external validation is the feeling that other people approve of and accept you, or you get the feeling that they accept you. Internal validation, or what some people just call self-validating, is, listen up, validating your own feelings without judgment. It's you confirming your own beliefs and actions and acknowledging your positive emotions, feelings, or like attributes of yourself. I hope you actually really heard all of that. The beginning is validating your own feelings without judgment. So maybe you have the same question that I had immediately. Well, what about your negative thoughts? You're just supposed to validate things without judging them, without discerning them. So what I had been reading really through almost every website, it's the same. It's if you have negative thoughts don't really serve much of a purpose. So what you need to do is replace them with a positive thought. So you'll say something like, I'm not good at anything. And then you'll just, in your mind, push that away and be like, identify a strength. Be like, I'm actually really good at this. And to do this, to work on this, you need to use like mindfulness, meditation, positive affirmations, and a lot of different tools is what you'll find on the internet to work on self-validating yourself. But it is a lot of work. Almost every single piece that I read said this is a lot of work that you have to do and dedicate yourself to it. The term that I'm more concerned with is validation itself. I don't know if you've been noticing this, but language has been changing in America, and we're taking a lot of terms and we're putting them into like therapy speech and like the self-help movement. So they have a tendency to lose the real meaning. So I want to go back and just go over the word validation. What does it mean to validate something? So validation is the recognition or affirmation that a person or their feelings or opinions are valid or worthwhile. So sometimes when you read a definition, you need to look up other words in the definition. So valid is the root word of validation. Valid means something is well-grounded or justifiable, logically correct. In essence, valid means being supported by objective truth or generally accepted by some like higher authority. You know how like if you need to get your driver's license validated, it's the government that is the higher authority that validates that, as an example. But validity is defined as the internal consistency of an argument. It's not based on a feeling. With that in mind, do you understand the huge problems with both sides? Because there are now. If validation has to come, it has to be like a sound argument, and it's not based on feelings, then with both sides, internal and external validation, one has to say, well, what are you using to base your argument, your opinion on? It's completely arbitrary. Actually, most things are. So let's just break it down. Let's just start with external validation. And so, as I said, everything has a semblance of truth to it. So flat out, we need external validation. We need it. Humans need to be validated by other people. We are not supposed to be islands to ourselves. We are meant for community. Humanity is meant for communities. So external validation gives us that like sense of belonging and sense of being in a community with other people. And the first time you experience external validation is in childhood, of course. So when you're born, the first people who validate you are your parents and, or if you have them, siblings. So it's your family. Now, this makes sense. You are a little kid. You are new to the planet, to the world. You don't understand how the world works. You need somebody who's been here to help you make sense of it and understand who you are in this magical world. So kids have a tendency to always look to their parent to validate them. They are always looking at them bright-eyed, wanting to know, is this okay? Is this all right? Is this what I'm supposed to do? And they want those affirmations. They want a parent, yes, or no, don't do that. Like kids need direction. And so that proves scientifically, you can just see it. We need it. We need validation to a certain degree. So I want to use myself as example only because I want to kind of set us up for how I and I believe also many of you viewed life as kids. Because I think what has happened, especially if you're in your 20s, and I like to speak to people who are younger, we felt like adults lied to us. It's not like kids are stupid. If you know anything about Fred Rogers from back in the day, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, he fervently believed that kids were smart and you just needed to speak to them in a certain kind of way, but don't speak to them like they're stupid. So for me, I grew up there were 5 of us, 5 kids in my family. I was the second to last. And so I was an introvert, and I still am today, very proud to be an introvert. And so I was a really, really observant child. But as I said, there were 5 of us. And so, as I said, kids need to be validated by their parents. But because I had 5 kids and, parents have lives, my parents, they had jobs, they have to take care of the house, they have their own lives as well. And, you can't expect a parent to just be there to understand every single thing about you and to validate all of your problems and talk to you. It's really just not possible. And my father was a disinterested father, so he wasn't really somebody to go to give any sort of advice. And then my mother, I would say, had an abundance of extroversion. She was still to this day, I would say, the most extroverted person that I have ever met. And this is my mother. And I was a super duper introvert. So straight up, I didn't feel like I was validated. I didn't feel like my introversion was validated by my mother. I think she actually thought that it was possibly a disease that children should not have. So I didn't feel like I was seen, which is what a lot of people want. That's what a lot of validation is, feeling seen. And so I thought that something was wrong with me. And like many introverts, we would just, be like, oh man, I wonder what it'd be like if I could be super outgoing. And, in America values extroversion, all that bubbliness, getting out there, being big and loud. And I was just like, I thought about it. And I said, man, I really wish I could be like that. And then as I grew up, and alcohol was available to me, and many introverts, we know this, you get drunk and like this other person comes out and you're like, yes, this is the extrovert I was meant to be. And I felt that way at the moment. And then every time, like the day afterwards, I always felt really stupid. And it's not just because I felt like I had done stupid things. I felt like I had been a different person. I was just like, that's just not who I am. That's just not who I want to be. I am an introvert. That's who I feel like. So this whole trying to be an extrovert is just not working. And so for me, this is just personal opinion, just throwing it out there, preference. I think introversion is a superpower of mine. I think it's if I had to choose between the two personality types, I think that we're stronger. That personal opinion. But introverts have a tendency to be very observant. And so we're like in our heads. And so when I was a kid, I was in my head and I started observing basic things. I said, okay, well, if I don't have a parent to go to, or my parent is so different from me, then that parent doesn't understand me. And so then what happens next for kids? They go to school, and then you seek validation from the next group of people who are in your circle. And that's your teachers and your friends. And so you're still developing a worldview, but you still have like a belief system as well. And so with me, I started just observing people. I started as seeing like things I just didn't understand. I never understood why girls or even guys had so many boyfriends and girlfriends. Like I just said, how is it possible? Like, can you be compatible with that many people who are different from you? And only doing research on this did it make more sense to me. If you're not getting validation at home, then or love or your needs are being met emotionally, then you may seek it from other people. And so I guess I understood then why some people would be serial dating even in high school. For me, I just didn't get it. I said, well, if you're going to be hurt, then why would you go to a next relationship and be hurt as well? But you are a kid. So, I guess give kids a lot more leeway than the parents. But from this, I started realizing that people were not very trustworthy. And then there were the teachers, and I started realizing that adults, some people will say things to you and they have really no validity or truth to them. They say them to make you feel better about yourself. And that to me just doesn't sit well. So I will give another example, non-kid, just life. This happened just maybe, I don't know, a couple of years ago or something. I knew this girl. She went out on a limb and she started a group, and she was telling a woman, an older woman in my church who should have been like a mentor to her, that she started this group and after the first week, nobody else came to it. And she said, I feel like a failure. And this woman said to her, no, you're not a failure. She was like, no, it was the topic that you chose. She was like, you're fine. She was like, had you chosen a different topic, it would have gone differently. Now, when I heard this, I didn't agree at all. I said, had she come to me, I would have given her a very different answer. I would have said, yes, you are a failure, but that's fine because at least you tried. Failing does nothing for anybody. I would rather be a failure and say that I tried than saying, I'm so unbelievably scared that I don't try anything. And if you think that that's not true, right here, you are great even if you fail. That is what I believe. It's a mantra that I live by. But that's not what people will tell you. People in your circle will bring you down. And they'll say, you'll get two sides. You'll get the ones who will bring you down. What are they doing? They're projecting their fears onto you. They'll be like, yeah, I don't even know why you did that. Man, like, that's just stupid. And then you'll get the other people who they won't give you any kind of wisdom. They'll just say, no, you're not a failure. You're not a loser. It's not you. And so as I was growing up, I was perceiving this and I said, and I'm sure many of you did this too. You were like, okay, so people just say things and they don't even mean them. So I'll give one more example because this happened very recently. I was at work and this girl was complaining about how much weight she put on. She was like, guys, I feel really disgusting. She goes, I put on like 35 pounds and she was like, none of my clothes fit. She goes, I feel like, I might even bust out of some of them. I feel really uncomfortable and I'm just really depressed. I'm not joking. It was like a chorus of women around. No, you look so good, girl. No, like, don't talk that way about yourself. Oh man, you look perfect. And I mean, it went on and on. And so they walked away and I'm standing next to her. Her face never changed. It never changed. Do you know why? Because she knew that they lied to her. Now, she might not say they lied to me, but what did they do? They gave her empty words so that she didn't feel bad about herself. But did she feel externally validated? No, she didn't. Because why? She knew in her heart, she said it. I gained weight. I don't feel good about myself. So does anybody need a person to say, no, feel good about yourself? No, you don't need it. You don't need those words. They don't hold any truth. So as a kid, I said to myself, wow, people just lie to your face to make you feel better. And if there's no truth in it, then what's the point of it? And so this brings me to, who do we go to for all of our validation, our external validation? Who are we looking for these to be validated by? Our family. As I said, our friends, our teachers. Once you get a job, your boss at work. We look to be validated by the society that we live in, our potential romantic partners. And now, modernly, which is very unfortunate, we are also looking towards social media with likes, follows, and subscribes. And it's crazy that we are seeking validation from complete strangers that we don't know anything about, but you're not crazy. We're not crazy. Why? This is part of the truth of why external validation is necessary. The reason that we're not crazy is because you know and I know that when you receive a compliment from somebody, anybody outside of you, you just feel so much better. It doesn't matter if you know the person or not, or they have any connection to you. So what you'll get is somebody will tell you, no, just tell yourself that you look good. And you'll go, okay, I did. But then I went outside. And what if somebody walks up to you and they're like, look, I just wanted to let you know I saw you. Like, you have really amazing style. You just look great. This is what happens. In your heart, it will get really, really warm and it'll like grow and you'll feel so amazing. So, and as I said, it doesn't matter who said it to you. And it's not that you were searching for it. So what happened? You just received a dopamine hit. And so this starts a very nasty cycle. This is what happens with us. You feel really, really good. And so now you go, oh, external validation makes me feel really good. And so you start chasing it. But then what do you realize? You realize that, a compliment can only hold you for so long. It may not even hold you for the day. And so you must go after them over and over and over. And so this is why I understood why some people dated many people. You might feel validated for a little bit, but what if that person stops meeting your needs? Then you go and you find somebody else to meet them. And it becomes this ongoing cycle of searching for validation and then some people end up becoming like people pleasers just for that external validation hit. This dopamine hit is what I'll call it. And so what does the internet prescribe as a solution? Internal validation, self-validation. You'll get these gurus, they'll be like, you don't need other people. Stop getting validation from strangers and just look inwards and get it from yourself. Okay, so let's go back and talk about what internal validation means again, just to refresh your memory. It's validating your own feelings without judgment. It's you confirming your own attributes, your beliefs, and actions, acknowledging your positive emotions and feelings. So, if you're not feeling very good about yourself, the solution that one would say is that, well, first of all, that's why you're seeking external validation. So to start internally validating yourself with positive emotions and feelings, you must first build up your self-worth. So you can't even just start internally validating. You have to build up your self-worth. So you have to do this, you have to start believing positive things about yourself. So if you had something negative, as I said, you just slip in something positive. And so there's a psychology term for this. It's called a self-schema. And a self-schema is a set of beliefs, experiences, and generalizations about oneself that guides how a person perceives the world. So it could be based on literally anything about yourself. So your physical attributes, your personality, your intellect, anything about you is what makes up your self-schema and how you exist in the world. So as I said, I was doing research on this, and so I was looking up some of the videos that other people are pumping out to people, and there is a self-development YouTuber, a female, her name is Tam Carr, and she focuses on giving information to younger girls, and I think many of it is quite problematic. And so I am going to quote her right here. She said, "You have to do everything in your power to build up a positive self-schema." Alarms like went off in my head when I listened to that. So let me say it again. You have to do everything in your power to build up your self-schema. It sounds empowering, but how much power is really in it? I mean, I think it's missing a massive piece. It's just almost rejecting like a lot of things that are going on in society. Because first of all, it sounds like a lot of work. You have to do everything in your power. Well, what if you don't feel like a powerful person? Do you think that you feel like a powerful person if you're already looking for affirmations or if you're already looking to build up your self-worth? No, it sounds pretty contradictory to me. It also doesn't seem to address anybody who has suffered from abuse or trauma, or a huge one that almost nobody mentions is people's current living situations. What if you are young and so you're living with abusive family members, or you're in school and you can't get away from your school? I hated my school. Like, I was just like, I cannot wait to get out of here and into like the real world. What about if you're just basically like tired and overwhelmed of this whole self-help development thing, and you're just like, you have life. People have jobs and other things to do. Even if they know that they have to work on themselves, they're like, look, I am just tired. And now you're telling me that I have to do everything in my power and strength to build up a positive self-schema. And you know what? I don't have it. I don't even feel like I have the energy to do it. And I feel like this is where a lot of people are. They just kind of want to drop out. And so I don't agree with what she said at all, and I'm actually going to refute that ideology with some science. So I found an article about, it had some studies about positive affirmations, and so I'm just going to straight up read them to you. Quote, positive affirmations do not work for persons trying to boost self-esteem, change negative thoughts, or escape from painful emotions. The evidence suggests positive affirmations only work in individuals who are already positive or high performing. Last quote. A recent study showed that positive affirmations like, I'm a good person, work great as long as we don't really need them. When we do need them, like when we start feeling bad about ourselves, such affirmations make us feel and do worse. It's a cruel joke. End quote. Many of you, I know it, many of you have felt this in your heart. You're like, yes, that's me. I feel like I've been trying to give myself all these positive like pep talks, and I don't believe any of them. I can't even sit there and identify strengths. I don't even think I have any. So then it becomes a cruel joke to you, doesn't it? So from here, this science or self-improvement has failed you. So what do people turn to next? A lot of people end up, they keep looking for more answers, and I stumbled across it as well. You'll get people who start doing things called like shadow work, which comes from Carl Jung. And it's this idea that you have a shadow self or like a repressed self. And what you need to do is you need to acknowledge all of these repressed and negative thoughts and bring them to light and accept them and merge them into who you are as a person. That sounds all great as well, except for the fact that what if you have things that you don't want to bring up, that you don't want to look at, and you don't have like a therapist to be there for you to help you work through those things? Maybe you're one of those people who's on that like never-ending wait list for therapy. So yet again, you have to do this all on your own. So building up your self-schema is work you have to do on your own. Shadow work is also work that you have to do on your own. There is so much work for you to reach a level of where some other people that's normal baseline for them. And so you may feel like this is just so unjust. Like you didn't pick your home, you didn't pick your parents, you didn't pick the neighborhood that you grew up in, you didn't pick the country that you grew up in, you didn't pick if there was going to be war in your country, or if your parents or family members or anybody else was going to be abusive. And so now you were dealt this bad hand, and so now you have to put in all this work to just reach a baseline, not even to become a successful person, just to be like a healthy person. That's what self-improvement is all about. And that's what this whole lie about external validation versus internal validation and becoming this person who validates yourself inside. Internal validation is the lie. I'm sorry, that's what it is. External validation is correct. And I'll tell you why. Because I know this is exact opposite of what everybody's telling you outside, but somehow you feel it inside. You feel that the power of somebody else telling you that you're validated is more powerful than you giving yourself false hope. There's a huge fallacy with internal validation that needs to be mentioned, and maybe you have seen it, especially with people online, so I'm going to mention it. There are some people who become very, very good at internally validating themselves. And as I said, you may have met them or seen them. Some of these people become so good that they actually start living in like an alternate reality. These are people where like if they do something, they don't care about anybody's opinion at all. So they become very, very difficult to correct. They won't receive any sort of outsider's opinion. So if they are perceived a certain way by society, they just reject them. This is pretty much, these people have succeeded at becoming like selfish, self-centered, narcissistic people. These people are very, very difficult to deal with. And that is what happens when you master internal validation, where you don't judge the way that you are, your feelings, beliefs, and actions. You just accept all of them and listen. You don't have to make any changes to yourself with internal validation. All you do is validate who you are and say, this is my authentic self. You don't have to do any work on your character. You don't have to become a better person. You can just tell yourself you're a better person. Does that make any sense? I mean, it sounds really powerful. It sounds great. But you know them. You know narcissistic people, and you're like, I can't talk to them. It's almost like reverse gaslighting, because they made their own world to live in their own little bubble. So validating yourself with a statement doesn't make it true. And you can only refute negative self-talk powerfully with truth. Trying to take a statement like, I'm a failure, and turning it into, I'm not a failure, I'm amazing. That doesn't work, right? It's just a statement. It didn't actually change reality. So if I sit here and I say, I'm an amazing CEO, and then I don't do anything, right? Does that make me an amazing CEO? I still have to put in the work to become an amazing CEO. That's why compliments are so powerful and why we really like them. It just doesn't really work complimenting yourself. It's just not the same power. So the question becomes, how do we solve this problem of seeking acceptance and approval from others? So let's go back to the definition of validation. It's the recognition or affirmation that a person or their feelings or opinions are valid or worthwhile. What you want is to be accepted for who you are. That's what we're all looking for. And it's a big thing today. We want authenticity. We want this idea of being genuine, but our fear is that people won't like us and accept us for who we are. So that's what people are craving. And that's where this external validation comes from. Deep down, you would love to just be yourself. Your fear, though, is that people will not like who that person is. So I made a video on identity recently, and that's something that you can check out later or afterwards, because that's something that you need to know. You need to know who you are as a person. I'm not going to go into identity. As I said, I made that video, but I'm still going to address a couple lies and truths about this anyway. Some of you may think, and this is something that I've heard online, that like you're the only person on this planet who knows yourself like inside and out. I beg to differ. I've met tons of people who I don't think they know anything about themselves. They can't really express to me their values or who they are. I've met too many people who are having like full-blown identity crises. And so I think this comes from the first lie that it's not the first lie you were ever told. The first lie you were ever told was probably something about like Santa or something. But one of the biggest lies we are sold when we're younger is the idea of our identity. And here in America, we're now pushing the fact that you can create your own identity. Hear me out. I'm not here to tell you that like the government or your society or your culture or like where you live or people or parents tell you who you are. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I also don't believe that you are the person who makes your identity. I have now worked with people who have said things to me that I find very, very, very concerning, and I've never said any of them. So I'm going to say them here because this has to do a lot with who you are as a person and who you think you are, your identity. I have heard people now say that they're like a bad batch of genetics. They're the result of like when two people who shouldn't have had kids had kids. they're just an accident, or like some sort of amoebic sludge or a Neanderthal. And I've heard multiple people say this now, and they say it casually and they laugh. But I said, there is just no way in anybody's heart that you can feel like you're a valued human being saying something like that. That has to take a hit. Your who you are as a person has to take a hit. And so I think those are very, very depressing beginnings. And I also believe fervently that they are lies to hold you back and keep you from becoming who you are capable of becoming, or who you should even be. And so, guys, I believe external validation is exactly what we seek. We're seeking it from the wrong people. We should be seeking it from the Creator who made us. Because if somebody makes something, wouldn't they know? Wouldn't they have given it its identity? And so if you view yourself not from some sort of evolution sludge, but the fact that there is like a God, a creator, then he would have given you your identity when he made you. And so what you should be seeking is him and his idea of who you are. It is also now proven that humans, that we just have an innate desire to be loved and to be accepted. And you will just never get these needs completely met from other people. And that is what people are trying to do. They're trying to get themselves the spouse, and then see if they can have a circle of friends, and also, have this great job, so that the world will be like, oh, you're amazing. And somehow you're still left unfulfilled, and you're still searching for validation. And it's because you want to be. You don't know this. You don't realize this. You want to be validated by your Creator. You can lie to yourself every day, but lies are not really as powerful as truth is. Truth will really sear you. Truth will anchor you as well. That is what I believe. I really believe this. It's where my identity, it's where my confidence comes from. It's why I don't seek external validation. Do I love a compliment? Yes, I'm a human being. Yes, I wish to have a sense of belonging, but I also know my people. And when I say I know my people, I know people who have the same value system as me, because those are people that I'd be more interested in validation from than just random strangers, not people who dress like you. So another thing is, because I get my identity and confidence from my Creator, I'm also capable of refuting the negative things that I say to myself, because I say negative things all the time. Sometimes I'm fearful of some of the choices that I want to make, right? But then I recognize who I am and who made me and who gave me the identity that I have. And so I don't have to refute the lies that come up in my mind and the negative things that I say with positive affirmations. I don't have to do that. I get to refute them with truth. And so I'm just going to present you with some of the things that I use to refute these things. For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, my soul knows it very well. For am I now seeking the approval of man or of God? Or am I trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ. For they loved the glory that comes from man more than the glory that comes from God. How can you believe when you receive glory from one another and do not seek the glory that comes from the only God? What then shall we say to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? Those are some of the verses that keep me grounded. They give me hope. They give me encouragement and motivation. And some of them are there just to refute lies, just to keep me above water. Now, unfortunately, some of those truths, if you were listening, they are only meant for certain people who actually believe in Jesus. Some of those are promises just for those people. But they are available to anybody who believes. And the most beautiful thing about that is, if some of them where you were listening to, is you don't have to do the work. Everything that you hear outside or on the internet, you have to do the work. But Jesus said, come to me, those who are tired and who are weary, and I will give you rest. If you're tired and you're sick of trying to improve yourself, then all you need to do is come to Jesus Christ. It is said about Jesus, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. For by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not your own doing. It is the gift of God, not as a result of works, so that no one may boast. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them." Jesus said to them, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me shall never thirst. All that my Father gives me will come to me, and whoever comes to me, I will never cast out." There is no other faith in the world where a God would die for you because he loves you so much and wants to be connected with you. As I said before, you're being told lies so that you don't have to have that power from your Creator, who is willing to do this work for you. Jesus said this about the devil: "He has blinded their eyes and hardened their heart, lest they see with their eyes and understand with their heart and turn, and I would heal them." That's because Jesus is called the great physician. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease." I want you to see the truth that's so powerful because it's being hidden from you. And many of you feel like you're drowning. You're drowning in this circle of external validation, in this cycle of self-growth and improvement, this shadow work, all of this stuff, and you feel like you're not improving. You feel like you have so much to do. You have so many people that you need to lean on, but you can't because they're not even reliable. They're not even there for you. Sometimes they don't even know what to tell you besides telling you to go to therapy, or they're giving you positive words and you, in your heart, you know that they're not true. This is what I'm living by if you wonder why I'm saying the things that I'm saying. But just as we have been approved by God to be entrusted with the gospel, so we speak, not to please man, but to please God who tests our hearts. I have too many friends now, and I know too many people who do drugs, they're overdosing, they're talking about suicide, they have friends who have committed suicide, they are crying about therapy not working for them, they are turning to substances to drown out life because nothing's working and they feel like everybody and everything is against them. Life is not meant to be lived in a blur, taking drugs just to get by. If you have tried everything else, I urge you to then just try Jesus Christ. Jesus said, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid." The external validation that leads to fulfillment comes from God and God alone. Guys, thank you so much for watching my video. If you have questions, which you probably do, or you have misconceptions about Christianity, what you've heard, what you've seen in society, or maybe what you saw in church when you used to go, I have made a series called Intro to Christianity 101, where I address many, if not most, of those things and give clarity to those issues. Thank you again for watching this video. If you have any questions, or this is something that you are interested in the lies in which society is telling us and you want to know the truth, then this is the channel for you. Drop a comment and or subscribe right down below. Thank you so much, guys. Peace out. And let's see what you can do. Is it just for show?